another episode of Let's Startup, the Bharatiya Media podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs, small business owners, and SME across Bharat by sharing stories, insights, and strategies from those who have walked the entrepreneurial path. Varija, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So,
Thank you, Bola. It's an absolute honor to be here.
what motivated you to start Varija
I
Lifestyle?
think I can write a book on this. You're asking me to sum up my 20 years journey, which is going to be tough, but I started, so you'll be surprised, Bola. I wanted to become a designer even when I was in school. Uh, लेकिन the formats that we have in fashion colleges
Hmm.
for admissions, I was not aligned to that. Uh,
Right.
because I didn't want to become an artist, I wanted to become a designer. So a designer needs to have a more three-dimensional or a four-dimensional perspective or vision of what you need to create. But how we a lot has changed in last 20 years, but how the admissions used to happen early on was basis sketching. My sketching is not so great, so I didn't get admission with the fashion colleges early on.
Hmm.
And as destiny might have it, I am teaching in all those fashion colleges that didn't give me admission 20 years ago. But what I'm trying to say is you really need to understand what is missing in the market
Hmm.
and what is the need and the pulse of the customer.
Hmm.
And I think I got that bang on from day one. And I started questioning a lot of times these latent needs are not very explicit, also. The consumer doesn't really ask for it because, for example, the consumer never knew that they wanted a mobile phone, but they really
Right.
wanted it. They never knew that something like this can exist. But we can't think of our existence without a mobile phone today. So
Hmm.
similarly, I challenged the fashion industry and I asked not so not so pretty questions. And I think that was the focus, or that was the leading torch for our brands today, which is fill in the gaps uh, in the areas which are not so fulfilled right now.
Building a successful brand in Indian fashion industry is not a one-day game. So, what strategies helped you scale Varija Lifestyle from a single brand to multiple successful brands?
Oh, you have to be very, very in Hindi, if I can use that word, very ziddi to stay in the industry. And you need to be extremely, extremely, extremely passionate about what you really want to do, because there are ups and downs, and there are more downs when you're building a brand. And often the benefits are reaped by the next generation. I mean, I've completed 2 decades today. Uh, and I had my you know, sheer challenges of building a brand. But I think what kept me going was that I was always trying to find a solution to a problem. So when I was creating clothes or when I was creating anything, I mean, we have so many brands today, we were trying to find a solution. So as long as we were not able to fulfill that solution, I think that drive sort of kept us going. And it's been a very exciting journey.
For business owners in smaller cities, what advice would you like to give who are managing multiple businesses like you?
I think from the entrepreneur's point of view and the fashion point of view, if you were to talk to me 20 years ago, we started in 2004. There,
Hmm.
there was and there is still a very high entry barrier. When I say entry barrier, you need to have X number of people working for you. You need to have X amount of inventory with you. You need to have a certain space with you. But a lot has changed post-COVID with digitization. So I think all the smarter lots who are very good with technology, a lot of it, your payments, your accounts, your inventory, everything can be managed or automated through technology. So I think that entry barrier has reduced. You need not have your own infrastructure in terms of production. You can outsource it if you're only, focusing on design.
Hmm.
Um, पर पहले ये नहीं था. So
Hmm.
a lot has changed the technology. So I would say that as much as you can have hands-on, uh, experience with technology, even marketing. Pehle we used to publish Times of India ads, etc., etc. Now
Hmm.
everything is a click away. You need to have your own social media handles. You can
Hmm.
have interaction with your last mile consumer and address their challenges directly rather than going through multiple supply chains and
Hmm.
dealing with the different retail formats, which we've done in the past. So a
Hmm.
lot has changed, and I wouldn't be arrogant to say that I am still learning after 20 years. And I think another 5 years, the way digital fashion is going to take over, it is going to be phenomenal and very exciting times for the industry.
So you have incorporated, social cost to your brand. So how a
Ji.
small business owner from tier 2 and tier 3 cities can also, incorporate a social cause with their
I
brand?
think the calling has to be within, it's not mandatory that you have to have a social cause. So my
Hmm.
calling came because I wasn't from the fashion industry.
Hmm.
And I was asking not so obvious questions to the industry or the veterans that I
Hmm.
wanted to follow in the industry. So I was asking them that if I were to design clothes for Bola and me, who is
Hmm.
going to design clothes for somebody sitting on the wheelchair the entire day? Or
Right.
maybe an autistic child who might have very specific texture issues, or does color psychology have a role to play in their lives?
Hmm.
Or Down syndrome kids, they have a different body structure. Who's designing clothes for them? And I didn't find any answers. And I think that's where, because my approach is always about problem solving. So I thought that here is a very big problem, because
Hmm.
all of us are heading towards old age disability. We are all temporarily abled people. And
Hmm.
at some point, we will need clothing which is adaptive, which helps us in our lifestyle. Um, but I didn't find a single brand in the country. In fact, very little research worldwide as well. So that became my calling. Not that I had an agenda that I want to do something for the disabled. I am a solution finders. And here I saw a problem which was in sync with what I was already doing, which was fashion.
Hmm.
And then I delved deeper into it, and then I realized that there is so much ignorance in the space
Hmm.
uh, that I mean, if I could share an example, the somebody sitting on the wheelchair the entire day, or a hyperactive child, who has ADHD or autistic,
Hmm.
they are wearing polyester based uniforms. Now
Hmm.
that is a uniform that you and me wear to schools, but the disadvantage of polyester is that it does not let your skin breathe. Now,
Okay.
a child who cannot express or who cannot speak, how
Hmm.
will that child express that I'm not comfortable in this uniform because I'm sweating, and this textile or this fabric is irritating my skin? Then
Hmm.
they would show a different kind of behavior, which is not very conducive. And usually the therapist would end up giving them medication to calm their nerves. Typically, uh,
Hmm.
नींद की दवाइयां अगर मैं बोल सकूं.
Hmm.
So purely the challenge here was the uniform,
Hmm.
not a mental condition.
Right.
So the ignorance to that level was impacting the lives of, and is still impacting the lives of so many people, which I think is very important to create awareness. So that I try to do with whatever little work that I do in the area of disability awareness. And
Hmm.
of course, try to root that through the fashion colleges, because I'm associated with couple of dozen colleges where I mentor the students, because
Hmm.
these are going to be the future designers and the future solution providers. So they better be best at their job.
Especially in competitive industry like fashion, what challenges did you face in creating national brand?
I still face so many of them. But no, the agenda was never to create something that uh, which is going to be a national brand, or it is an agenda to prove a point to somebody. No, I think it was just an um, internal benchmarks that we have to be better than what we were yesterday.
Hmm.
We are creating something beautiful, and I think we just kept challenging our own selves, and we never realized where we've arrived and whom we are competing with. It just happened by default. Uh, so I think that hunger to learn, that hunger to perform, the hunger to outdo our own selves
Hmm.
kept us going and brought us where we are today. So there were challenges, and I think every challenge was part of our education, where we were learning. We were learning from our mistakes in supply chain, from our mistakes in production, in HR, in technology, in finance, in every aspect. But today there is a learning curve that we've achieved, which I think can only happen if you have that die-hard passion. Otherwise, we would have called it quits very early on.
So, how do you ensure your fashion products stay relevant and connected with customers?
I think very important is reading and staying connected with your consumer. That is, of course, the utmost priority. But what is also important is to know what is happening in the political world, what's happening in the economy of the country, what's happening socially around, what are the technological developments through which your consumer is getting impacted, because these are various aspects which influence a consumer's choice.
Hmm.
And if you're up to date with what is happening around, I think it you get the pulse of your consumer even before the consumer decides this is what I want. So often we are able to predict fashion 6 months in advance or 8 months in advance. We call it forecasting. So it is based on these softer angles which impacts a consumer's life, which impacts their decision making in fashion. And usually the consumer himself or herself is unaware that this is what is going to impact. So just being up to date with what is happening around your consumer, I think that helps us stay close to the consumer and predict and offer them what we think is going to be the best in the coming days or months.
You have scaled your brand across, India. Your insights are invaluable to other entrepreneurs as well. So, what key lessons have you learned that can help other SME owners grow their businesses in today's market?
I think couple of them, which is I think it's become a cliche now, but resilience to change.
Hmm.
Earlier the change would come every 10 years. Google came, and then the Facebook came, or Hotmail, I still remember in 1997, 98. Hotmail came, and then Google came, and then Facebook came, and then Insta. So it did impact our lives. So every 10 years there used to be a change. Then the 10-year gap became a 5-year gap, and then a 4-year gap, now a 2-year gap. Now you have a Insta, and then you have a Snapchat, and then you have the Chat GPT, and now there is AI. And so that change by the time you settle with the change, there's a new change. So you
Hmm.
don't have the luxury of settling with the change over 5 years. That change is coming every month or every fortnightly. So as an entrepreneur, you have to be on your toes to see what that change is coming, and in what capacity, and how quickly you should or you should not adapt to that change, because your consumer is getting adapted. So your antennas have to be really up and about to figure out that change. So I think resilience to change is very important. There's no running away from technology, especially people in their, maybe in their 40s or 50s or 60s, who are still grappling with the thought that, we are happy being offline. Um, You can probably stretch it for a couple of years, but you'll be in for a rude shock to realize that technology is going to take over in a very, very big way in the coming years. So get a hang of it sooner the better, because obviously, when you're in your 40s and 50s, you feel I've been there, done that, and this is what it's going to be for the rest of my life. No, it is going to change, and you have to, and even the people around you, they have to get used to technology. So I think these two things. The third is be true to your consumer. I think that goes a very long way. That honesty to you're only human, as even as a brand, there are humans running the brand. You will do mistakes, there will be errors. But I've always realized that if you're true to your consumer, even if there's an error, there's a mistake, uh, you still you still create a very strong brand legacy, and you still create a very strong loyal consumer base. Consumers empathize, they understand that you're also human. So I think being humble, staying grounded, and being honest to your brand, that really goes a long way. So I think these are the three that I can think, but there can be so many. I think if you have a passion for what you're doing, I think you'll find your way in.
We have lots of entrepreneurs from small cities. So what marketing strategies should they follow to to scale their venture in terms of marketing?
I think right now, digital, that's the best way to reach out. But there's a flip side of digital, which is the lack of human connection. So
Mhm.
make sure that it's not just a digital ad, it is also
Mhm.
somebody calling the consumer, or, off and on finding out reasons, or creating reasons to interact with your consumer, because the consumer really wants to know the face behind the brand, or the personality behind the brand. I think that goes much longer than just being faceless in the digital platform. But of course, digital gives a uh, whole lot of opportunity to connect with the consumer base, which is beyond your local space. You can reach out to somebody in a different city, different state, different country, without spending much, without moving out of your office or homes. So do not underestimate the space of digital marketing. But at the same time, if you can, and you should connect with people offline as well.
Managing people is also a very difficult task for small entrepreneurs. So what tips would you like to give to the fellow entrepreneurs who wanted to manage their people well and scale their venture further?
I think building teams is very important in terms of, having a common vision. From the time you interview somebody, you recruit somebody, if you're not aligned with that common vision, uh, I think it is going to be sooner or later a disconnect. So it is very important. Is their vision aligned? Are they equally passionate about what they're doing? Are they equally passionate about building a brand? Equally passionate about going through ups and downs of what the business is going to. You don't want somebody to leave you right in the middle of nowhere, when you have the bad days. So it is very important. The rest is a journey which you will explore together as a team, as a family, um, which nobody can predict. But if the intention is right, and if you have like-minded people, I think, and irrespective of what strata of society they are coming from, what financial backgrounds they're coming from, I think that intention is very, even from what skill they are coming from. So, post-COVID, when we were hiring designers, um, a lot of them didn't have digital skills. They did not have technical skills because that's not part of the university curriculum. Um, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that they had the will to learn. But if somebody says that I don't have the will to learn, I have only learned hand sketching and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, there's an alignment issue. So if they have a will to learn, we will teach them. So the skills are going to, of course, you'll have to keep reskilling yourself. But provided you want to, you have that hunger inside you, you have that fire inside you. So I think that that is what we look at, and I think we are on the right path with the, the way we built up our team, which is very, very robust, and which is why I'm able to do what I'm able to do today.
Finance is also a very, tedious task for every entrepreneurs, and compliance as well. So how do you manage your finance well and, compliances?
You need to have regular reporting systems, at least weekly, of the expenses, of the sales, so that you can catch it in time, rather than wait for your 31st March and then be in for a rude shock. So if you have weekly reporting systems, you'll be able to catch what is going wrong, where you can cut your expenses, where is the potential for sales. So finance management, one is accounting, which of course you will have your accounts or your CA to take care of. But finance management is analysis of this data that is coming to you. So which is very, very important to have that data with you every week and run through that data.
Uh, as you are running your venture in fashion industry, if
Yeah.
a if a entrepreneur wanted to start his own business in this industry, what tips would you like to give?
So you have to ask yourself a question. Are you in the business of creating a brand, or are you in the business of creating a product? They are two different spaces. If you're in the business of creating a product, then it has to be economies of scale. It has to be large. You need to have investment in infrastructure with machines and with the right kind of team. And then you need to have the buyers in hand. So you cut costs, and you can probably create a Me Too product. What matters is that you're getting the pricing right, and then you can supply it to, various brands. Um, on the other, that is if you're a management person, you're an operations person, you're a supply chain person, because it's all about managing operations.
Hmm.
If you're a designer by heart, then your focus has to be marketing. And I think in a country like India, it is important that a designer knows how to do marketing. You might be able to create a brilliant product, but if you're not able to market it, uh, you can shut shops. So then if you're creating a brand, then marketing has a very important role to play. And maybe you don't need such a huge infrastructure in terms of production, then somebody else can create it for you. Then your focus has to be only marketing and designing, and of course, investments in inventory. But production can be taken care of by people who are creating the product. So I think that uh, clarity you need to have on day one, whether you're in the business of creating a product or whether you're in the business of
So, what advice would you like to give to entrepreneurs from smaller cities who want to build a successful brand like Varija Lifestyle?
lage raho.
लगे रहो
In
मुन्ना भाई.
short. Yeah, I mean, there's no black and white answer. Every day is a new day. If you like challenges, if you have a high adrenaline rush, uh, and you want every day to be a different day, and life which is not very predictable, uh, this is the place to be in. And come what may, your goal is not going to change. And the ways to reach your goal is going to change every day. There's no fixed formula. And because whatever that I'm going to tell you now, bola, maybe 6 months from now, kuch naya technology aa jayega.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey and insight with us. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot from your experiences. Follow us on social media. So until next time, this is Bholanath said signing off.